Over the last few weeks on Perfect World post-production, we built a monorail to a new location, built a giant oil rig, and we've been building a mega factory right out here on the ocean. And the reason I chose this spot specifically is because of this, or at least what was there, which was an ocean monument that I did previously remove. In fact, there we go. Look, we can see the big spiky fish spawning in now. And today I want to find a way to harvest these giant aggressive fish that spawn here to get easy access to prismarine, which is going to give us much more variety on building blocks, which is going to be very handy as we continue to expand the rig and add a bit more variation. Now, if we have a look down here, I was clever. I have actually marked out the 4 points where the corners of the ocean monuments were, and I have got my Fulbright on just so we can see what we're doing down here for now. And this pillar here does also go over a section of the rig, but as you can see, we've only actually got one of the fish in there compared to all these out here. So it'd be nice if we can find a way to actually get these into the pillar somehow. I have no idea how we're going to do that. But to begin with, I think we are going to start in here. And if we have a look at the water level here, I think what we should actually do is lower it by a block. That way we're going to have a bit more space around the outside for stuff to spawn. And then, yeah, we're going to have to try and figure out a way to get these guys inside as well. Or at least find a way to maybe block the spawning in this area here. I don't really know. In fact, if we're clever about it, we can probably work out exactly where we need to stand on the rig to make sure that only this leg part is loaded. And that's probably going to be the easiest solution. But first off, let's remove this top layer. And then we're going to put lots of soul sand in the bottom and probably just have some kind of a grindy mechanism at the top here. But as always, that means I'm going to need a bunch of stuff. So I'm thinking a mechanical bearing and maybe some drills for the killing mechanism, or we could use saws. Saws are probably going to be more effective, aren't they? It means we could do with some more of those. We're going to need super glue. We're going to need one of these backpacks with a magnet upgrade. I think that's going to be the easiest way to collect the items. We're going to need a bunch of create power things as well. Maybe we should take some fans. We might be able to actually use those to sort of suck more fish into the columns. Potentially, maybe. Who knows? Oh, actually, isn't there? Yes, a nozzle. I've never messed around with these before, but maybe we should make some of these. It might come in handy. I'm going to take some redstone links, some clutches, a few pulse timers, a bit of redstone. I'm just trying to think of anything that might be useful for making this farm here. Maybe some chutes as well, some funnels, you never know. And I guess if I want to survive this, I should probably get myself some potions of invisibility, otherwise things are probably going to go bad. Right, let's see what we can rustle up. So first up, let's cover up the roof and remove this last layer of water. Then we're going to drink an invisibility potion and go in here. And I think instead of a mechanical bearing, we might be better off with a windmill bearing here. Although I'm probably actually best off putting the windmill bearing there. Then we'll stick wool on that bit there. Then we'll stick a row of drills at the top of the water line here. And in fact, I'm going to double that up just to make sure. And we're going to stretch those all the way across here. Although after the central point, it would make sense if we actually spun them round the other way. So let me just rotate these. Glue all that together. So that should be about right. Yep, it's working. It's a bit slow though. Add a bit more wool and get all that glued in, and maybe that'll speed it up a bit. And we need to change the direction. Still feel like it needs to be a bit quicker. There we go, that's better. That feels like a good speed. Now next up, I need to cover the floor with soul sand. Now I'm thinking if we stick a backpack here, make sure the magnet's turned on, and another one here. Also with the magnet turned on, get those glued in. Then they should pick up the stuff that we get from these guardians. Let's just find out, shall we? Well, the killing machine's working, and it sounded like stuff was getting picked up. I didn't pick it up, did I? Oh, I picked up a bit of it. Not ideal. But these bags are picking it up. We're not getting anything left behind, I don't think. Nope. Perfect. So now what I want to do is see if I can find the perfect place to stand. So let's just do a little test. If I was to stand here, is stuff going to spawn in the leg? We're getting stuff spawning in this corner. We are getting some in the leg as well. It is mostly this corner, isn't it? So I wonder, can we pull these guys into the leg? Maybe using some of those nozzle things? I think I'm going to need a water breathing potion for this, though. It was hard enough just putting down the soul sand. Now, do I have any here? 2. That'll be enough, probably. Maybe. Gonna have to do for now. So the first thing I want to do is get power over here. And I guess the best way to do that is going to be to steal it off here. We're probably going to want max power. So let's make sure we're grabbing that. So let's just run this all across this beam. Get this power down here and we'll see what we can do with it. First up, let's drink a potion of water breathing and another invisibility potion and take off our armor. And what I need to do is quickly craft these nozzles. And I want to find out how strong they actually are. So if we put that fan on there, for example, that is currently blowing. So now it's sucking. Let's put a nozzle on the end. And okay, it's not a bad area. So we can pull them in like that, but is that going to do anything? Is that useful to us? Let me think. Let's get rid of this. And we'll raise it up a little bit. So what if we put a bunch of saws up there like that, stick the nozzle on, give this thing power, and get away from it because we don't want to get pulled into that ourselves. Is that going to take out the fish? So let's go back up here, jump down, and take a little look. I mean, it's doing it. Interesting. It's been doing it quite well, in fact. This little fish is getting away, but all the rest, they're getting pulled straight in. There's nothing spawning over here. Do we have any spawning in the leg? Not currently. How about if we went somewhere more central? We're spawning way too many over there now. Look at that. But then if we had another one of these little nozzle things on each side and literally just built them all the way around, and then we had backpacks on them, connected to some drawers that just run everything back up to the top, we could probably make this work quite well. I mean, it's not flawless. There's obviously problems like this guy just chilling there. But I think combined with this central tower, that could work quite well. Although I do need to take out these corner bits here because the saws don't quite reach them. So we've got a bit of work to do. We need to block up the inside a little bit. I want to move this into the middle and put one at the bottom of each section here. And then we need to have some kind of a collection system. We're going to need a bunch more of those backpacks. But thankfully, because of our failed storage system attempt, we've actually got loads of them. And lots of magnet upgrades as well. So let's go get a few more bits and bobs and get building. And hopefully by the end of this, we're going to have a very strange but effective guardian farm. And a short while later, we now have these on every single column. I've also moved them to the middle, and yep, they're not perfect. You know, there's fish still sitting on top. Some of them are getting trapped in the middle, but we are collecting a bunch of resources, and we're also getting a bunch on the inside here as well. And now these columns are in the corner, they're getting stuck a lot less. I've also added a drop-off system here for everything being harvested in the middle, and the ones around the outside also connect up and just go connecting to the same system. I would imagine if I stood a little bit further this way, however, we should now stop spawning so many things on the far side of the pillar, which should mean that more's getting pulled in by these things. And no, it's not the most efficient farm in the world, but it is getting us some resources, and that's all we really need it to do. We're going to be spending a lot of time at the oil rig, and this will just always be ticking over in the background. And as you can see, just in the last minute or so, we have collected a bunch of stuff, and that's going to be plenty. What I do want to do, however, is actually link this storage section into the rest of storage. So let's just use these framed trims to get us all the way up to the top. And we've just run out of those, but it's okay. We can switch to the spruce here. And we just need to run this all the way along until we hit the other storage drawer line, which should be somewhere in the center here. Oh, yep, there it is. Perfect. So if I now remove that, hopefully we should still see things ticking up. Yep, there we go. That's good. And what I can now do is actually take these away and just bring them up here where we're currently storing everything else. There's no reason not to, really. And they should still keep counting up. Yep, there we go. Still getting stuff coming through. Perfect. Well, that was a nice, easy farm to get the day started, but I think it's time we did something a little bit more complicated. Building these farms hasn't been particularly exciting. They're all very samey because we're just using these storage drawers, and there's not really any kind of logistical structure to the things that we're doing. It's just take something out of a drawer, do something to it, and then chuck it back in a drawer. And that's getting boring for me as well as you, no doubt. So we do need to build a couple more things. Last episode, we got as far as making the andesite. I still want to make granite and tuff purely for the building purposes up here. Then I want to make a start on things that take a bit more processing to get there. And that's going to be things like iron, copper, zinc, and so on. And with all of those farms, I don't want to be taking the resources that we're making over here for building things. I want to start from scratch. So we're going to build a giant foundry type thing, and we're going to be taking cobble from here, but that's about it. We're going to do all the steps of the process in its own factory over there. And that should make things a lot more fun for me and for you. First things first, though, let's quickly build a couple of small farms up here for tuff and granite, which will be used for building. And then we need to make a building that we can then use for making all the metals. I'm sure there was a much less confusing way I could have said that. So first up, tough, we need to mix andesite with cobble and lava. We've already got andesite coming through. We do, of course, have cobble. And we've got a whole bunch of lava next door, so this should be fairly easy. And farm layout-wise, it's going to be exactly the same as this one, I guess. Just over there. So I won't bore you with all the details. Let's just skip to having a lovely completed farm in front of me. And there we go. We now have a machine making lots of tuff, which is exactly the same as the andesite machine. We've just doubled it up. And over here, because we didn't need the lava in order to actually make the granite, we're just feeding in diorite on this side. We're feeding in quartz on this side. That's getting mixed together up here. And then we're pulling out the granite. So we've now got tuff coming in. In fact, we've got 17,000 already. We've got 1,200 granite. And as you can see, we're still getting lots of the stuff from the Guardians. And we're getting a whole lot of fish as well. But not only that, we've also got a couple of ink sacs that have come through. So I guess we're taking out the occasional squid down there as well. But it's good to see that everything's working. But we are already using over half of our power currently. So we're definitely going to have to add some more windmills at some point. But for now, I think it's time to start planning the next building up here. And I'm quite liking this profile so far. I think it's looking pretty good. What I might do is put a small garden on this corner here, just so we can have some trees and foliage and things, which would mean the next building's going to go on this side here. And it's going to need to be quite a big building because there's a lot we're going to need to do in here. Basically, I want to make all the metals. So that means iron, copper, zinc, and brass. I think that's all of them. And apart from cobble, because we've got millions of that coming through, I'll be doing the entire process over here. So we get to actually build some proper sort of chained together factories and using some of the logistical stuff in Create, which is half the fun after all. I mean, the drawers are great for doing quick and easy farms, but they just get a bit boring. The first things first, let's go grab a bunch of resources and start marking out the next building. So I've decided to go with sandstone for the base of this building, and it's going to need to be pretty big, so I'm just going to mark out a huge area. So maybe something that sort of size, a big area here, a little bit off to the sides. And at the front here, I think we're going to bring the overhang down to the bottom level. So at the front, maybe we could do something like this. We'll add some support to this platform. And I want to have maybe like a giant crane type thing coming out here, because if this is going to be processing lots of ore, I think it'll be nice to put some design elements on that make it look a bit like that. So yeah, some kind of giant crane pulley system is going to go up here somehow. But size-wise, that should do it for this building, I think. So we've just got to get the walls up and then we'll go from there. Well, as usual, I got a bit carried away with the building stage. We've actually got the windows in. We've got a little bit of detail here and there. Nothing too much. We'll probably add some more. But we've also got the roofs on. I've also connected the roofs up over the top here. And on the inside, we've got lighting and we're ready to build some factory type stuff. We've actually got 2 floors in here as well, which is nice. Also got a hole in the wall. And then up here on the roof, we've got a few skylights. We've got some fans and things just to mix it up a little bit. We've got a lot of greenery going on elsewhere. And as usual, I've done absolutely nothing with the backside of the building because once again, I still don't know how this is all going to tie up. We're probably going to end up with another building up against this one. But although we've done all of this, we're still missing one thing, and that is the giant crane that I want to have out the front here. It's going to be some kind of pulley system, I think. And I have no idea how it's going to look just yet. But either way, we're going to need to go back to storage. We're going to need to grab some things. And I think out the front here, I want to have this as like a storage yard type area. So I'm thinking of maybe putting some shipping containers in. Maybe even some piles of dirt and a big conveyor going up into the building, actually. That could look quite good considering what we're processing in there. But either way, I need to go grab a bunch more stuff. Let's go find some things that might help us build a crane. And we'll see what we can come up with. Right, so I've got a bunch of stuff that should be useful, and we're going to start with these great big giant beams. In fact, before that, we're actually going to remove this garage door thing here. I think we're going to have a different type of door here because I've got an idea of how I want this crane thing to work. And that starts by cutting out this bit here and putting in a beam. We're going to stretch this all the way across the inside here. And then we're going to run a gantry carriage under this whole thing here because I'd like to have this be a working thing. And I basically want the items to be able to come up and then go into the building. So let's pull this beam out over here. We're going to need to get power to the end of the beam. So let's just run that across the top. Then that power's going to want to go down like this. So what I'm doing at the moment is just working out the mechanical side of things, and then we'll work out how it's going to look after. We'll try and tidy it up as best we can. Now, we're also, of course, going to need power running through the gantry shafts. And my thinking is if we have a gantry there, and then we have a rope pulley, in fact, we could probably put the rope pulley there, then when this comes along and stops, the rope pulley will connect to this, and then that's going to send it down. At least that's my current hope. We're just going to need to make sure that this is all stuck together. So I think if we were to do that, and then just wrap around it like this, and then we'll use copycat slices along the bottom here, then we should be able to glue all that, and it should be attached and not interfere with the actual rope pulley system itself, hopefully. So let's get this glued. All right, now we just need to get power into this thing. So let's send that through the building there, and encase that. Then we can do that. Put in a gearbox and just send shafts all the way across the ceiling to the back of the building. Now over here is where things are going to get interesting, because we need to put in some sequenced gear shifts so that we can control what's going on over there. So let's make a little bit of space. Then we'll have our 2 sequenced gear shifts. We'll work out exactly what we need them to do a bit later. In fact, what I might do, just to keep this all a little bit tidier, is we'll put in some gearboxes and then add some shafts. And we'll do the sequenced gear stuff down the bottom here. And then we can connect these 2 together here, and then get that connected to the and get that connected up to the rest of the power. It should be just over here. And I want to make sure I'm not messing with the direction this is going in, so we're going to put in 2 gearboxes. There we go. We now have power going into the sequenced gear shifts. Now, thinking about it, something I do want to do is actually slow this down. So I'm just going to redo the connection at the bottom here. There we go. That's now going 16. That's much better. We just need to put the gear shifts back in. So this is going to be a bit of guesswork to begin with. This is going to be the rope that goes up and down. So let's say we want to move this one 70 meters down, delay for 30 seconds, then come 70 meters back up. So the gantry shaft, let's say we want to move it 40 meters, give it a 1.5-minute delay, and then come back 40 meters. So first up, let's test this one. So first it's going to move it out, which is what it's doing, and then it should pull it back in after a 1.5-minute delay. So we could be here for a minute. In fact, maybe if I just reverse the direction like that, what we can do is press the button. So it should start pulling it in. Nope. Okay, I think that was a gluing error. Let's do that again. First up, it's pulling it in. Yeah, look at that. Wonderful. Let's just see how far into the building it goes, because we probably only want it to go to about here, which is probably only about 10 meters. But we'll let it complete this run, and then we'll mess with it afterwards and actually get it going in only as far as we want it to for the animation we're going to have running. Now, let's try the other one. And yep, there we go. That's going down. Let's just see how far it goes. We said 70 meters, which is probably going to be way too much. I mean, we don't want it to go underwater after all. Let's see how far down it does go. Oh, definitely too far. I reckon it maybe only wants to do about 35. So I'm just going to play around with this for a while until we get the right distances, and then we'll see how the sequence looks. After a reasonable amount of trial and error, I've eventually managed to get the crane system working how I want to with timings, but now I need to sort out the platform it's actually going to lift things on. So how about something like this? We'll use the metal catwalks to give a platform, and then we're going to use some copycat slices around the edge just to chunk it up a bit. Then how about some catwalk railing on here? So let's see how it looks on the move. I do want to load this up with loads of ore and stuff, but I don't have that on me right now, so let's just see what happens here. Yeah, look at that. Beautiful. In a very messy way. We'll get this tidied up shortly, but I do like how it's looking so far. Just nice to have a bit more life on the platform. Although we'd probably see this much better if it were daylight. Yeah, that's cool. I like that. I like that a lot. So for now, we'll leave that empty. We'll go back and get some ore later. But what I do want to do is start making this thing look a little bit better. And I've got a few ideas of what we can do. Let's start by spinning that round. And I've got some of these large industrial cogwheels. So when everything's winding down, that will spin as well now, which should look cool. We'll put some brackets on here for a quick win with the shafts. But we need to do something about this gantry, and we need to give this thing a lot more support. We need to get some sort of angled girders in. I wonder, were. I think we're going to have to remove this window here because we're going to need this space to add it in support. But let me just try something here. Let's stick a beam in here, make it longer than the one below, glue it together. In fact, we'll carry it on a couple of blocks inside. And if I use a mechanical bearing and a valve, set this to only place when anchor destroyed, and rotate that. No, not that way. Let's rotate it that way. Then we could do something like that. I mean, that's actually quite cool. And then we'll just fill in the rest of this wall. But I guess we don't have to remove the entire window. We can still leave a little bit at the top there. And then maybe we could stick some girders in here. So that gives that a bit more support. Now, to cover up some of this gantry, there's not really much we can do, but I'm wondering if maybe some iron bars or andesite bars would help, just to hide some of that redness. Right, there we go. The crane's looking better and more supported. I just need to get some oars on this thing to make that look good, and then figure out what I want to do with this bit out the side here. Now, the thing is, obviously we're going with a sort of solar punky theme here, and it's not very solar punky to process lots of raw ore. But at the same time, the game kind of demands it in the way that it's made. So what we could do is have like a few shipping containers out here, maybe a little pile of rubble or something that's getting pulled up into there via a conveyor belt. That could look quite cool. So it'd be a little bit industrial. Or we could just do a smaller yard with 1 or 2 shipping containers, and then maybe a green space with some trees or something like that, which is probably the better approach to actually get some greenery and trees on here. But let's get a couple of containers in first and see how we're looking. Now, when it comes to shipping containers, we have a few options. We can use pillar blocks like these, which look okay, I guess. They do make good shipping containers. However, I believe if I actually search for shipping containers, we actually still have a bunch of shipping containers from when we made our drill storage building. So I'm just going to grab all of those. These are from the Vibrant Vaults mod, and they're very nice. I like them. And then I'm going to grab a bunch of ore as well. So let's maybe grab some copper and a bit of iron. And we've got some raw iron. We can make some blocks of that as well. We don't have any raw copper, but that's okay. We can probably quickly get some though, just by breaking some of this up. Well, we've got a few blocks. That'll have to do. I've also grabbed a bunch of moss and some other bits so we can make a small garden, but I think that should be enough. Let's head back and see what we can do. So for putting the ore on, we're going to need to wait for this thing to actually come back to us. So let's start with the shipping containers. Let's do an orange one, another black one, maybe a yellow one here. I think with the yellow one, I want to put this one at an angle just to make it a bit more interesting. So let's glue that together, go underneath, put in a mechanical bearing, set that to only place when anchor destroyed, and then stick in one of these. There we go. I don't think it needs more than that. Then I'm just going to put in a fence along here. And using these hewn spruce planks in copycat panels works quite well. But if I also combine that with some dark oak fence posts, yeah, that's cool. I like that. Although this fence should probably go back a little bit further because the shipping containers are going to get a bit trapped otherwise. There we go. And then what I'm thinking is over here, we'll just put down lots of trapdoors, fill this area with moss. And ideally, I want to try and get a big tree here. And as you can see, we can force that just by putting some blocks on this side. And I think it only works when you put the blocks to the east side of the sapling or something like that, which is what we did there. Well, that gives us a nice big tree. I really should do some custom trees, shouldn't I? This is just being lazy. Right, let's remove that and go get some bits to actually make a custom tree. It's going to take a whole lot longer, but it should look a lot better. In theory. I mean, I'm not great at doing custom trees, but I'm not going to get better if I don't practice. And I could do with healing my ornithopter as well, so I should probably do that while we're over there. So I've got a bunch of things that should be useful. Let's try and build this tree. We'll start by getting the main trunk area in. I'm just trying to work out the basic shape at the moment. We're starting to get some branches on, at least the chunky ones. And then we're going to use fences and things like that to put the thinner branches in. But for now, at least we're making a bit of progress. But I think it might actually be time to switch to the fences now, maybe. Because the fences are great for adding the more sort of spindly parts to the branches. So I'm just going to build up a bunch of this around near the top. And of course on some of the extremities of these branches we've already got in. Hopefully we can make this look pretty good. But the thing with trees is if you can get them looking like a good shape before you put the leaves on, it should work quite well when you do put the leaves on. We're getting there. We've got a big gap over this side and we've got a big gap down the bottom here that I think think could do with more branches. Okay, that feels better. Now comes the tricky bit. Let's get some leaves on this thing. That's either going to pull it together or make it look awful. Now, from years of watching Minecraft videos, I have picked up a few tips with trees, and one of the first steps is to cover the tops of the branches with leaves. And you want to get some occasional ones on the bottom. And the trick is to make sure you're leaving lots of air gaps. You don't want to completely cover everything up. Oh, my jetpack's run out of fuel. I'm going to have to go back and get some more. There we go. That should help. And the tree is not looking too bad, considering I've only just started putting the leaves on. But let's quickly get this finished up. All right. Well, I'd say that's not looking too bad. Maybe do with a few more leaves on this side. There's a few too many fence panels visible. From this way, it's looking all right. Okay, not bad. Definitely better than the default ones anyway. And it's all practice. Eventually, I'll get good at them, maybe. And now what I want to do is just mess up the floor around here a little bit. Get some coarse dirt in. Maybe a little bit of normal dirt as well. There's a little bit of foliage. There we go. That's looking pretty good. Get a couple of bits of this dry grass in as well, I think. All right, not a bad use of that corner. Now, next up, we need to build a couple more of these lights that we've got going on here. And I think I've brought everything with me that I need. So we need girders. We've got the redstone lamps. Let's just clear my inventory here. We need copycat fence posts, which I don't have. I seem to have shafts instead. So we're going to have to go get some of those. And then we need some slices and a daylight sensor. So I did bring daylight sensors. We've got the industrial iron. We've got some slices. We're probably going to need more of those. And of course, we need those fences. So let's quickly grab those and we'll get a couple of lights in around that area as well, just to make it look a little bit nicer. I think while I'm over here, I also want to grab a little bit of tuff just so I can rough up the ground underneath those shipping containers. So slices, we've got loads of those. Fences, plenty of them too. Then we'll get some tuff and maybe some sanded tuff and a bit of eroded as well. And I'm going to grab a couple of these drills, some barrels and some crates, just so we can add a little bit more to the shipping container area. But let's get some lights in first. So we'll stick the first one here. So it's block of industrial iron, then it's a girder, then it's 3 fences, then it's a girder, then it's a fancy redstone lamp, daylight sensor on top set to the blue mode, and then copycat slices around the edge here. And let's get a couple more of these in, I think. There we go. And thanks to the daylight sensors, they come on at night. Looking good. Might be nice to have a bit of seating around here as well, though. So I wonder if I remove a bunch of this fence, can I do this? Panels on either side and on the back. A couple of rails. Yeah, that looks all right, doesn't it? Let's stick another one in over here. Okay, that's that area finished. Now to sort this out. I'm going to start with the floor. I just want to mess up some of these bits under the containers. We'll mix in a bit of sanded tuff as well. All right, now I want to jam in a few crates. Maybe stick a box in here. Another couple of smaller crates. Maybe even a barrel or two. And then I'm sure I picked up some drills. Didn't I? Did I not take them out of the box? Or can I just not see them? Oh, there they are. Gonna say, thought I did. So what I want to do with the drills is just put a couple of them scattered about, just to make this look a little bit cooler, and I think that works. And just to show these haven't been moved much recently, a little bit of dried grass looks pretty good as well. Oh, I like this. And while this is back, let's quickly get some blocks on this. We're going to stick a bunch of copper on one side, a bunch of iron on the other. Then let's quickly glue all that together. Right, I think I got it all. So let's go over here, press the button, and it's not moving, which tells me something is still blocking it. Ah, this block here is not stuck. So we'll wait for it to finish its cycle and we'll try again, but hopefully we've got everything this time. Right, let's try that again. And yep, there we go. It's moving this time. Let's get a good view of this doing its thing. This whole new area is actually looking pretty good. I like it so far. Could do with some stuff on the roofs around here, though. The roofs are a bit bland on this side. But the lift is also looking cool, although it's not currently delivering to anything. We need to put something down there for it to actually receive the goods onto, I guess. Although what would probably make sense would be to have a ship that comes along and it all ties together nicely like that. But that's a future problem. For now, I'm very pleased with how this whole rig is starting to come along. It's looking very cool. But sadly, I think that's all we've got time for today. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one, where we'll actually put some things inside this building.